Hi dudes, in this episode we fit our new circuit board, put some batteries in and get the whole system fired up.
Well, we don't wear skimpy bikinis. Hell, it frightens me when I take my shirt off. There's definitely no one pregnant here. This is motor sailing for old dudes. We do live on a boat, and we do cruise extensively along the Australian coast. Join us and visit some great destinations. Learn how to look after a boat and live off grid. It might even get you enthused to do the same thing. Hey, stay out there till you can't. Okay, now I reckon we might have to... Oh, that's got to go right up to the roof, so it might be alright. These come down to there, so that'll be good. So this one's in the way at the moment, but...
Yeah, I think we'll disconnect those pipes.
And take the bottom pipe out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And just let that hang until we get it up on the wall.
Yeah.
We're going to need the drill.
So that's where it's got to go on that bracket there. And we'll have a crack at getting it up. I'm going to have to stop filming and doing some work. So these are our mounting bolts right through the bulkhead. Hang the panel up the other side. This inverter weighs 28.4 kilos.
How come I'm doing this, Tom?
I wonder why Bruce is doing it. He's doing a great job though, don't you think? I better get down and help him. So that's where it's got to go on that bracket there. And we'll have a crack at getting it up. I'm going to have to stop filming and doing some work. Brucey did it by himself. He said it was easier. It's definitely easier for me. A couple of screws got to go in the bottom, they'll hold it against the wall.
I have to fix my glasses first.
And I'll have to fix Bruce's glasses for him. It would be a horrible job doing it down in here, what we've done on the bench. A fantastic way of doing it. If you've got space, I suppose. As I said before, the reason I'm using this locker is that there's no water in here. It's quite dry. It's a fair bit of volume, so a bit of air can flow around the whole thing, and it's a good spot for doing the batteries and that. You want a torch, Bruce?
You got the flat washers?
Yep. Oh, fuck. Hang on. Can't pass them through either. Fucking in, out, and in. Fucking out. I'm going to put ladders down to these things. You've got to be happy with the way that looks. It certainly is a fantastic upgrade for this old girl. Well done, Brucey. I think he's starting to get comfortable in here, actually.
And we just found out something that we didn't know before. These Multi+ 2 chargers have a 4 amp trickle charge output for a start battery, which we were unaware of. So we've learnt something today. So we're adding in a wire to charge the what we call the winch battery, and it's not the start battery, but the winch battery. So yeah, an add-on.
Bit more work.
Bit more work. Put it in.
I'll get one end in and then I'll put that, just sit it on the deck. That's 2 big wee batteries. That's
Each.
400 amp hours each. That's 800 amp hours. That's 800 amp hours, and looks pretty good. I'll have to make up a bit of a frame to hold it all in there, but that's fine. So that's it, the very final job. We've finished in this locker now. The only problem we have is that to make all the settings on the Multi+ 2 correct, we have to get a dongle. So to configure that, we need to get a dongle and connect it to a computer so we can set it for lithium-ion batteries, etc. That's a bit of a problem, but we're going to try and source one, either borrow one. If I've got to borrow one, they're about $138, but it's the sort of thing that you probably use once and not use again. But I'm going to check on that, whether you need to reconfigure it some other time. It might be handy to have. But yeah, be aware of that if you're getting a Multi+ 2. I think if you've got the Servo GX stuff, you might be able to configure it on that. But without that, you have to plug in to one of the buses and run it to a dongle and then to a computer. So we can't really test the inverter charger out just yet next week. But the panels are putting in at the moment, I think, about 30 amps. So the solar regulators are working well, and they're pushing those batteries up. They're at, I'd say, about 30% now. So the sun's doing a great job at the moment.
The last job. This is the 10mm squared cable to run to the DC to DC charger for the winch battery, winch and radio batteries.
So that's just got to go down on the start battery down there, and we're finished. Bit of programming.
Bit of programming.
The hard bit. Did you get it?
Yep. Here's the magic box.
It's about $138 worth, we think. So that plugs into the computer, and then you've got a, what's that cable called?
It's an RJ45 lead, or data lead. which we'll plug into the inverter charger, and just got to download the Victron Connect app to your computer, and I think also a MK3 driver. I'm not 100% sure on that, we'll have to look that up.
Okay.
I think you need, not only do you need the app, I think you also need a driver for the actual component itself.
Well, let's try
We'll
it out.
find all this. Okay, AC input disconnected, that's correct. AC input line 1, inverting, okay.
How's it going, boys?
Well, we're having fun.
Yeah,
Except we don't know what we're doing.
but it's good fun.
Fetching settings.
So this is the first message we get on
First
screen.
message. Features provided in this menu are powerful tools intended for the use by Victron trained engineers, installers and dealers. Its usage must not be attempted by system owners and users configuring our inverter chargers such as multis and quattros. Requires both training and experience. Victron offers no direct support for untrained individuals carrying out configuration. Does that rule us out, Norm?
Maybe?
Maybe. Well, let's click Enable Settings. Okay, we're good to go.
The job's finished.
Down the hole for the last time. When you use this dongle, there's two VE ports underneath there that you can plug into either one. That's your RJ45 end. The other end has to plug into a laptop. It's a USB, so you can't use it on a tablet or a phone. You will need a computer with Windows or iMac. The software is available free online from Victron, so that part of it's okay. The other thing that we haven't seen anywhere else on any other YouTube places is not only do you need to download the software, but you also need to download the drivers for the MK3. So you need both, which is a little bit of a trick we found out. And you'll be asked for a password when you open this up, and the password is ZZZ.
They said ZZZ.
Or ZZZ if you come from the States. Yeah, that's something else that you'll need to do. And then you'll be able to complete your programming. It took us probably a couple of hours, so it wasn't simple, and we had a lot of mucking about backwards and forwards.
And some of the voltage profiles were wrong on it
Yeah,
too. Yeah,
some of the voltage profiles in the settings where it came from the factory were wrong. So don't rely on the fact that it's put it up there, plug it in, and away you go. It does need to be programmed. Possibly to buy one of these, you're going to pay $130, $140. For $140, I would pay someone to come and do it. That would be my recommendation. It might cost you a bit more than that, but once you've used it once and it's set, you're never going to need it again. So it's probably $140 well spent to have it done properly, and you know you're 100% correct. Right. The other benefit of getting Chris from Green Marine to do it for you is he does boats, and that's all he does. He just does boats. And most of the stuff that you'll find on the web and YouTube are American sites that are dealing with RVs and things, and Chris knows his generators. The first thing he said to me when I rang him up is, have you got a C-Wasp generator? So he knew that there was an issue. So they're the sort of things that will benefit you by spending the money and getting a proper technician to do the job for you. On this boat, as I said, all boats are different, but on this boat we don't have shore power input. The actual input to the inverter is direct from the generator, and then out of the inverter we run to a changeover switch, and the changeover switch feeds the boat from the inverter or from shore power. The reason for that is 99% of the time Norm isn't on shore power, so he's got to rely either on total battery power or the generator. So when the generator starts up, the inverter kicks in, or the battery charger kicks in and tops up his batteries. we had a lot of issues programming this with the generator. Norm's boat has a sea wasp generator, and one of the generators there where there's output is not real smooth. So these inverters don't like dirty input, what we call a dirty input, and we had a lot of trouble with that. One of the settings in there, thanks to Chris letting us know, is a weak signal switch that you set on your computer when you do your programming that allows to recognize dirty inputs. Without it, this thing was erratic, it was turning off, charge rate was all over the place. It was quite a bit of a concern to us at first what was going on. So be aware of that. If you've got a generator input and not shore power input, you may need to check that box in the programming for a weak signal. Okay, so that's our finished product, and we'll just run through a bit of an overview so you know what we've ended up with. These are our 2 solar arrays coming in, and in theory you should have a dual pole disconnect system. I mean, you could put a double pole circuit breaker in there, but as long as you can disconnect your solar array, both poles, then that's sufficient. So we've just used Anderson plugs. We have our 400 amp fuse for the inverter. Then of course your inverter. Over here are our 2 solar eggs. Just a little word of warning on our solar eggs. We went to a very well-known supplier here in Brisbane, told them what solar panels we were using. They actually had those solar panels in stock, two large panels, and the salesman said to us, 100/30s, that's what we'll use, they'll be fine. Do the sums yourself, they wouldn't have been big enough. So and we've got to double check, or you should double check that the current that you're going to get or the regulator that you're going to use will handle the 2 solar panels. So he was going to sell us 100/30s, which we really needed 100/50s at a minimum. Circuit breakers with the solar panels. If we haven't fused the input of the solar panels, and the reason is if your short circuit current of the solar array is less than the maximum series fuse rating of your solar panel, then no fuse is required. A matter of fact, if you put a fuse in it, it's counterproductive. It will not blow. So there's no point in putting a fuse. That's the reason we haven't fused the solar input. You will normally have that situation if your panels are in series. If you put your panels in parallel, you'll probably need to fuse them. Then of course we've got our shunt for the BMV 712, which has the Bluetooth. Of course our 2 batteries. When you hook up your batteries, make sure, if you've got more than 1 battery, if you've got 2, 3 or 4 batteries, your positive and negative leads that run to your system need to be on either end of your bank. So the positive needs to come off one battery, and the negative needs to come off the end of the other set of batteries, however many you've got. Don't take your positive and negative off the same battery and then jump across to 2 or 3 other batteries. Otherwise you're going to be drawing too much out of one battery and the others are going to be lazy. Then down the end there we have our DC to DC Enerdrive. We've used Enerdrive DC, as I mentioned before. That's so that we can program the current that the alternator delivers to the batteries. There are only 40 amp alternators on this boat and we don't want to overtax them, so we've dialed the current down to 20 amps. Enerdrive have that facility in theirs, which is very good. You can also, one of the benefits of the EnerDrive is, of course, that you've got a solar input that you could add to that. So that'll take a maximum of about 45 volts and 50 amps. So you'll never use your 50 amps, but you could use that as your solar input array as well, if your system allows for it. And then off the starboard motor, we've got another DC to DC charger, the old red arc that was here originally. We've reused that because the winch battery normally has a standard winch, a standalone winch battery to operate the electric winch. That's disconnected at the moment. It's connected now. So that doesn't have lithium profile, but it's an AGM battery, so that's just running off the starboard motor to top up the winch battery. So that's about the extent of it all.
Well, hope you enjoyed that episode. Next week we're going to wrap it up. We take a test cruise out to the pin and spend a couple of really cold nights out there. But I'll give you all the settings I've come up with for my solar controllers. And I think these are pretty relevant if you're living on a boat. So I hope to see you again next week. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell and you'll get notification. Cheers, dudes.